Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 4 for the Legacy podcast we have right now. And today's guest we will be having no other than Mr. snrplat himself, which is also known as Mattgia or Mattgia, who's also known as snrplat. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
What's going on, everyone? My name is Matt. You can call me Mattgia, snrplat, whatever you want, and I play Temtem.
That was very special introduction if I ever heard one, to be honest. And I'm trying my best not to laugh right now, but Plat, that was pretty classic and pretty straightforward. Would you like to say what's your specialty in Temtem?
Um, I'm kind of known for being toxic. Uh, I play a lot of toxic Temtem, and poison
Mm-hmm.
people, abuse poison ticks to win. All that good stuff.
I see how it is, but okay, just for the people who do not understand or just are still new to Temtem, they are listening for this podcast. I'll give them a nice
Uh,
overview quick.
You
Plat
want
is
to? You want me to do a better introduction of myself?
Go ahead if you want to give it a shot, be my guest.
All right, I've been playing Temtem since it came out in open beta in January of 2019, 2020, whatever that was. Um, Started playing competitive in about April. As soon as I got enough funds to get a team going, because that takes a while. Um, and I started playing. I played 𝗬𝗪𝗓 for a little bit because I heard that was good back when it had heat up. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really my style, so I started playing Toxic Tems just because I like the true damage. I've
Mm-hmm.
been playing competitive ever since then. It's been like over a year.
I mean, by now, almost everyone knows you because you're a multiple times tournament winner. Almost every tournament you play, you end up in top cut. And the one thing that is common between, 1.5 year before and even now is only that you always play toxic cores only. So you are known for playing toxic Thems, and you yourself have a name for it now at this point. Now, tell me about this week. How was your week this week? Like, what were you doing this week? Just chilling around, or still rolling in competitive trying to get the number one TMR at the moment, or just chilling out right now in the back?
Yeah, I haven't really been playing Temtem outside of tournaments for a little over a month or so, kind of just chilling out before Arbory comes. I've also been kind of busy with school lately, um, finishing up my computer science degree. I'll be graduating in a month and a half, and then I gotta get a job.
Mm-hmm. That is good. I mean, spending your time and dividing your time into real life and gaming on the side is always a good thing to do. Now, I need to ask you this question: have you always been like a heavy toxic player, or did you switch playstyles in between every now and then?
Um, I don't think I've ever played in a tournament. I don't think I've ever played a team that didn't have three toxics on it. There was very briefly a team that I played that only had three. Normally I play four.
Mm-hmm.
The team that had three, it had 3/5 because I was playing Mimit and Wastewaters Albion. So it wasn't really three toxics, it was like kind of five sometimes. But, you know, I've always played, I like to play a quad toxic core.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Now, like, can you say the reason why? Is it just because you love the true damage that comes from those toxic ticks?
Yeah, I like the playstyle. I like, it's very aggressive without being,
Defensive, completely.
yeah, well, I like the true damage because true damage is very like anti cheese
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Like especially when I first started, everyone just first picked 𝗂𝗫𝗀𝗃 every single game, because 𝗬𝗪𝗃 would heat up, and with Keanu buffs, it just had too much defense and
Yeah. So
HP. But
that
you
is.
just,
Mm-hmm.
I would use like a Platimous Urushiol, and that's true damage. So now you've put this 𝗬𝗪𝗃 on the clock. It doesn't really matter what its uh,
Stats are.
stats
Mm-hmm.
are. It's gotta kill you fast enough now.
Yeah. So
And so you can play really aggressive with it, or you can. It also has a lot of good pivoting, and you can
A
play
lot
out
of Tems.
a lot of different strategies within one game. So you can't really get locked into one strategy like with traditional aggro. It's very matchup dependent.
That is so true. So the next question I was gonna ask, you almost half answered it right there, but again I was gonna ask that during your early days, when you just started, the meta was really heavy wind and crystal heavy, right? Like heat up 𝗬𝗪𝗔 and a nerfed Volash. And at that time, how did you think the toxic type was, and how did you manage to even play toxic at that time as well? Were you like completely relying on the toxic ticks itself, or were you still taking care of all the compositions and looking around what's going on, and then still are making the team around what's going on in the current meta or that meta at that time?
Yeah, I guess you always have to make your team around the meta at the time, but back then, I don't know how I got away with playing 4 toxics, because the meta was 𝗬𝗫𝗽𝗫𝗀, Pigapick,
Volarend.
Volarend run every team, and then it was usually like 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗴 and maybe like another wind, and people were just running. Every team was basically 𝗬𝗫𝗽𝗫𝗀 winds with turbo choreography and hypnosis. Um, so it was like, I don't know how I got away with it back then, but I was playing Volarend back then, so when you use Volarend as one of your toxic, it doesn't really count because it's not weak to wind. So that helps with running stacking toxics a lot if one of them is a Volarend. But yeah, it was kind of, I had a game. You just have to have a game plan. I back then and just first ban Volarend every game because
Yeah, I remember
back
that.
then it was too good.
That is so
And
true.
then you need a way to deal with. 𝗬𝗵𝗈 was in the meta sometimes. You need a way to deal with that. 𝗬𝗵𝗶, 𝗬𝗵𝗶.
Banshee.
So I remember 𝗬𝗵𝗶 sometimes. I had um, a Lawali on the team, and no one else was really running Lawali, and it was really good into um, 𝗬𝗵𝗶 that everyone had on every team. It was a good pivot too. There's just little things you can do to help make your matchup into wins a little better.
Also, when did you start making a name for yourself? Like, were you a prodigy right off the bat, like Shiro or Tsubaki, or was there a development process for you and you took it slow and steadily up there? Because I believe you being a bit unique by just, a person who's just playing one archetype, just taking to the toxic archetype no matter which, meta comes around, it must have been hard. But were you like prodigy like right at the start, or did it take you some time to get into the rhythm of things? And if
I was definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, and if it did take time, how long did it take for you to start getting the rhythm of things?
Yeah, I was definitely good when I first started. A couple weeks in my first tournament, I played in like a plus tournament. I think I got third or fourth in it. I lost to Prody, playing like some Volarend Doom team, and I had no idea what I was looking at. But so I was good back in 𝗃𝗼𝗻𝗶. I wasn't really good right away. I don't know how. It probably took me a couple months to kind of be considered up there, doing well in tournaments consistently. And then I wouldn't say until like beginning of 𝗬𝗫𝗶𝗴, halfway through 𝗬𝗫𝗶𝗴 was when I kind of felt like I got to the top tier of players. Looking back, I don't think I wasn't anywhere near as good as I am now back in 𝗃𝗼𝗻 and early 𝗬𝗫𝗶𝗴. So it took me, I don't know how long that was, months. Was that even a year maybe? I don't know, of playing before I felt like I really got to the point where I'm at now. Yeah.
Now again, just to round it up for the 𝗃𝗼𝗻, what would you say about players who were saying that toxic is the best type in the game at that point in time? Do you think Toxic was really strong at that time, or was it struggling?
Um, it wasn't struggling in 𝗃𝗃𝗃, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the best. The best type in the game was Wind by far back in 𝗃𝗃𝗃.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say that the best type in the game is still Wind. Most people, I don't know if everyone will agree with that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think Wind is still the best type. Because if you look at every team across like every meta we've ever had,
Mm-hmm.
it's there's at least 2 Wind Tems on every team, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Even
Toxic
right
is
now,
probably
there is.
the yeah, like now, like even with electrics, like doesn't matter. There's minimum Barnshee Tulkin on every team, maybe a 2 rock.
But
You
to
can like
wire.
you can easily go 4 wins on a team without like being hard punished by having one type, because nothing resists it and nothing's good into it basically. So I think Wind is the best type. Like people will say Nature is the best type because it has like the most resistances and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but Nature loses to other types that are better than it, like Toxic. So Nature is like a top 4 maybe, but I think it's like Wind, Toxic, and Neutral are pretty close, and then maybe Nature.
What do you think
So
about the
Toxic's always
neutral
been good.
typing? Do you
Neutral,
have you ever felt that neutral has been running rampant just because there are not enough mental terms around? Literally, I think there is like possibly four, I think 3 or 4 mental terms out here that are actually played in competitive a lot. Other than that, neutral terms are running around rampant, and there are very few situations where they can be countered. Or do you think neutrals are still under control?
I mean, I think they're still too good. I don't think it's quite as bad as it used to be. In early 𝗬𝗃𝗏, it was literally just Scunch and Mooflank, just carrying the meta. They were both so overpowered, and
Mm-hmm.
you needed double mental or else you would lose. Um, it's not as bad now. They toned it down a little bit with 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗏 losing neutral synergy was pretty big. Um, just power creep in general has caught up a little bit, but neutral's still it might be the second best type. It's either neutral or toxic. It's a little hard to say. Um, and neutral's moves are just overpowered, and a lot of them are really well statted too. Like you have Yalar, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous. Mooflank outtrades every single physical attacker in the game. Scunch, I don't know. The Scunch is stupid too.
Skunch can
Scunch,
actually, yeah, crack a hole in the wall if you leave it alive for like two or
if
three
if
turns.
you don't have a mental, Scunch is crazy. So
Yeah,
neutral is definitely not. It's not balanced, but it's not a. You don't instantly lose the game if you see a Scunch move flank anymore.
that is true. What do you think about 𝗬𝗨 that is about to come? I mean, I heard that it has a neutral suplex move as well, which does a lot, like, which does more damage the more stamina you have. So it's basically like a hyperkinetic strike, but based on stamina rather than speed. And that Tem has, I think, base really high stamina as well on top of it. Do you think it's gonna be around for a lot, or is it just gonna be a jank that people call? Because we don't know
Yeah,
the whole explanation of it yet.
it's too early to say if it'll be Valiar will be any good. Without seeing like the stats and the what the move actually does. I don't know. It's hard to say if that move will even be good because you don't even if the move scales to a lot of damage, you don't want to invest into stamina more than your rotation. You're never even if this thing gets to do a lot of damage with this high stamina, you're never gonna put 500 points into stamina on it. That's just not gonna work. Um,
That is fair enough.
but it'll definitely be interesting to see what new Tems we get.
I see. So now let's transition into each toxic type Tem, and I will be getting your opinion on the validity of these Tems and the teams that they can be played in, alright?
Hmm.
So let's start with Akranox. I believe that I've seen you making use of Akranox beside a 𝗬𝗏𝗏 for the late Torment combination. How good did it feel to make use of this duo and when it worked?
Oh, whenever you can get late torment with Yalar, that always feels great because it's basically a one shot. It's like a in Pokemon you have like Fissure and Sheer Cold, one of those like the one hit KO moves. It's basically one of those, but it's just very inconsistent because you need to trap something. So your options for applying trapped or like a cage is without losing tempo to make it not worth it is using handcuffs or Akranox basically. Because if you're just clicking cage to use late torment, you're kind of giving up a whole attack anyway. So it's not really that good. It's I mean it's cool, but it's not really any better than just clicking clinch and like base jump if you're using flank.
Do you think the second retyping of Akranox, which is Earth, it is good for dealing with crystals that are problematic? So do you think it is okay to have Akranox in team just to deal with some crystals as well, just in case? Or you think Akranox is better for, doing toxic attacks more than the Earth?
Well, so part of the reason why when I was running Akranox, I only ran it for like a week or two. It's one of the lowest tier toxic Tems right now, in my opinion. I was using because 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗴 and crystals are very difficult for toxics to deal with. So when you have a toxic earth type, that's a pretty good combination. Toxic resists some of Earth's weaknesses, and the Earth gives you coverage into like Valash and stuff like that. So it was kind of a Valash is difficult to deal with, 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗴 is difficult to deal with. The Akranox can prevent those two from going crazy, but at the same time, its stats are good, but the distribution is like
not the best.
It's very balanced. It's very balanced, which I feel like in this game isn't that great because it's not tanky enough to go be tanky. It's not really fast enough or do enough damage to go be fast. And then of course it only has Mud Shower for Earth and then 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So it's like it doesn't really have good moves for doing damage. All it can really do is sting and trap you, and then maybe Venom Spread, but Venom Spread is another really inconsistent move.
Again, yeah, that is true, because swaps can happen, chamomile can be a thing. There's a lot of conditions that come into the equation. Now, last question before we move on from Akranox would be, what do you think about morale boosting whip Akranox that is used for Venom Spread combinations with the likes of 𝗃𝗏𝗏 and 𝗃𝗏𝗃? More likely 𝗃𝗏𝗏 right now, because Faraday Cage is a thing that's happening a lot lately, and Venom Spread followed by that is most likely a knockout, I think. Is this something that you have thought about?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Probably the best viability Akranox has, or has always had, is using the Venom Spread. And it got better with the most recent patch with Whip, so you can use it with more other things to poison it first. But at the same time, if you're going to be doing 2-wire and Venom Spread, you're probably just going to be using Digital Chromion or Toxic Chromion. It's just a better Toxic or Venom Spread user than Akranox. It just does way more damage, and there's really no point to run Akranox instead of Digital Chromion. So like it's one like niche strat with like the 2-wire Venom Spread. It's just outclassed by Toxic Chromion.
That is true. So let's move on to the second Tem I have in this list, and that is Platimous. I think it's been a while since you made use of Platimous. Why do you overlook this Tem despite the recent Toxin Shower buffs it got, and do you think Uroshil and this Tem is not enough to make it worth using?
Uroshil on Platimous is really good. The reason why I don't use it is because it's turn one. Its turn one move
is weak.
Is just so bad, especially if you don't have Toxic Synergy, and you can never. I mean, my opponents are going to be picking Wind Tems into me first. I can't just pick double Toxic so that I get Uroshil Synergy. So pairing Platimous with something just like doesn't work. You can use 𝗂𝗶𝗆, but like that doesn't do very much damage. After that, it's pretty good. It's not bad. Because 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, you can pivot your other slot into a toxic to get 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. That's really good value. Being pretty fast base speed with Aquatic Whirlwind does a lot of damage without invest. So it's got some good things going for it, but just compared to Kalabyss, I just think
Doesn't.
Kalabyss is better right now.
I see. That is fair enough. I mean, I understand. I mean, the only player making use of this Tem at a high level right now is 𝗬𝗶𝗏 himself. So do you think the Tem itself is holding 𝗬𝗏 back, or you think he's just getting, like, he's using it because he feels comfortable with it right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's holding it back. I don't think it's like really bad or anything like that. It just for me and what I want it to do, Kalabyss does better.
True. Okay. So let's move on to the next Tem that I have here, which is a Goolder. So Goolder, the Tem that everybody dropped with the release of Ragnet, is this Tem just too one-dimensional for the current meta?
Yeah. Goolder's another one. Like, Goolder isn't bad by any means. Him and Platimous are both probably like B tier or so. The problem with Goolder, so Goolder's tankiness is really good, but that's just not enough because all it can do is click Toxic Ink, really. And the big difference between right now and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 was that 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 could last as long as you want. So
Yeah,
when
now it is
𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 only,
movered.
yeah, so like your Goolder, it can click Toxic Ink and it can Bamboozle really slowly. So if you don't have Nageice, your Bamboozle is probably not getting very much value, and it just like doesn't. It just straight up doesn't have any other moves that are worth clicking. Harmful Lick is decent damage, but so much stamina. Goolder can just be very easily ignored compared to other toxics. So it's not bad. It's just outclassed right now by toxics that do similar things and then do other things too.
That is true. Now,
But yeah, so the with 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 though, so now that it's only 4 turns and the way it works with swaps, you can't play defensively anymore. So Goolder now goes really good because you could play very defensively, and you can't do that because you just run out of turns.
Yeah, you could basically dictate the speed of the game when you were having that combo for unlimited time, or at least having the Deceit Aura for as long as you wanted, but now that's not the case anymore. Now, the one person that does appear whenever he does play in tournaments with a Goolder is most likely 𝗵𝗏𝗏 that I see him. What are the odds that you are going to be playing Goolder again, and do you think that Goolder will be coming back with Archetype or skyrocket in value with the punching bag trait?
Yeah, 𝗵𝗏𝗏. I don't think 𝗵𝗏𝗏 has ever not played Goolder. And he had a really cool strat the other day. I played him on Friday. Where he had what is it? A redirection device on Goolder, and he had a team that was pretty weak to digitals, and he was just using Goolder to soak up hits and protect his team. So that was a pretty neat way to kind of get more value out of Goolder. And in Arbory, I mean, all Goolder really needs is another move. Another move that is worth clicking, that gives it some utility, that does something that other toxics can't do.
So you're
and
saying,
then it would be back. So I hope I start playing Goolder again. I love Goolder.
so you're saying some kind of a signature move for Goolder that only he has and other toxic Tems do not, kind of thing, right?
I don't even know if it has to be a signature move. It just has to be something useful that differentiates it from Noxolotl or from Kalabyss.
True. Fair enough, I mean. Okay, so next time is quite interesting because it's one of my close ones as well. And we jump on to Noxolotl. How good do you think is Noxolotl right now? Best toxic Tem in the game, or how would you say
It's
about it?
the second best toxic Tem in the game. Mushook is still better.
I see. Fair enough.
Mushook and Noxolotl, for me, both A+ tier, or A tier. With the caveat that Kinu and Noxolotl into like a special attacking team is probably S tier. If you can let them get Kinu, Noxolotl, and you don't really have perfect jab, and you don't really have ways to deal with it, it's ridiculous. Especially since first aid kit is what really made it, really pushed it up the next level. Because you can really easily and safely proc trance now.
Yeah.
Before the counterplay was kind of, you can get it a little below half or around half and then use 2 attacks. So the first one will proc trance and put it to sleep, and then the next one will kill it before it can heal. But if you just kill it, if you hit into trance and it just heals 25% instantly, there's no way you're
one-shotting it
with one more attack. Yeah. See, it's just almost a guaranteed trance proc, and then you get your 40% heal and boosted stat, and you're chilling.
And most of the meta right now is mostly special attackers, from what I know at least. Like, current meta is looking really like, a lot more special attack focused than the other way around, because Tulkins, Hejines, there are just so many times Amphitheater, most of them are like special attackers right now, so that really helps the trans proc that happens. It definitely helps a lot as well to ensure that it does not die. Now again,
there are some teams that are pretty heavy physical, but yeah, a lot of high tiered stuff is special too.
Now, what do you say would be the best item for Noxolotl? I mean, you've been seen using Baton Pass, Pillow, and First Aid Kit. Which is the best one and why?
First Aid Kit right now, by far, because you just guarantee your trance proc. If you didn't have it before First Aid Kit was in the game, there's a couple options, like Pillow was most common, but the 25% burst heal when you need it is just way more important than healing a little bit more over time.
I see what you mean. Now, again, do you think Nox is lacking in any shape or form in terms of either stats, moves, or does he require anything at all, according to you?
No, that Tem is in good shape. It feels like it has a pretty complete kit. There's multiple ways you can play it too. You can go for like special attacker, or you can play stare like I do.
I see. One last question I would ask before we move from Noxolotl is, what was your thought process when the Noxolotl got nerfed out of nowhere? I think in between 𝗬𝗫𝗶, I think somewhere where the trance was triggering a lot before, and then they were like, oh, it was just supposed to trigger once, we didn't know, and then they nerfed it. Do you think it was done for the better, or at that time it felt bad, but now that the first aid kit is here, it is justified?
Yeah, at that time, Nox didn't have acid. I don't think it had acid reflux, and I don't know. It was just very bad already. It was like never played. There's only like 2 or 3 people that were playing it, and they bug fixed it. I guess I don't know. That was back then. I was kind of mad about that change, but for now, I mean, with First Aid Kit, with rounding out its move set, and then they buffed it. They've buffed trance since then to heal more. It was only 20%, or 2 ticks of regenerating. They buffed up to 4. So yeah, I think it's a lot better. If it triggered multiple times right now, it'd be way too much.
Yeah, it would get out of hand pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, next time we have on the list is basically Kalabyss. Now, Kalabyss is another Tem that is seeing a lot of success right now. What do you think? Like, early on, Kalabyss was thought as a bad Tem. Like,
which meta?
before the traits were changed for Kalabyss, it was not being
Hmm.
picked that much, but after the trait change, he has started to see a lot of play.
Yeah. So Kalabyss was actually really good, like right when I started playing, or even before it maybe, just because it's so tanky. And then it kind of fell off a little bit as stuff started doing more damage, and nature. We went into like that nature meta, where it's like 𝗬𝗵𝗶 and 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶, and when you have Botanophobia and you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to wall natures, it doesn't really work. Um, but it still was pretty good. Like, it has really good base stats. It has Toxic Ink, so that's a really good start. And then the trait change, yeah, I mean, definitely helped. When you go from negative, it was like the only Tem in the game besides Anna here that had a negative trait.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Mucus is just a really good trait too. So it helps a lot, especially with electrics now in the meta.
I see. What do you think is like? Do you think Kalabyss benefits from either Shuin's Horn or Reactive Vial?
I've played both. They're both really good. Um, Shooting Horn on Kalabyss is good if you don't run another water. Um, it makes it a really good. There's a lot of like fire and earth Tems that are very dangerous on turn 2 and beyond, like
Mm-hmm.
Mudrid can put you to sleep. Volcrane can block your water attacks with what's that move called that gives you the Stone Trench. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of fire types where having a turn 2 or turn 3 water move just isn't quite fast enough.
Yeah,
So you
you
can
need
do a
it.
lot of you can
Mm-hmm.
turn a lot of matchups in your favor with Shuin's Horn. Crystal matchup too makes your matchup into Valash way better. Instead of getting resisted, you're doing 25% more damage.
That's
Um,
true.
so it just changes up your matchups a little bit. Reactive Vial, I think, is better overall. With Mucus, you just basically resist electric attacks. The first one does 1.7 times damage, but you heal 15%. So unless it did uh, what, like 50% or so, you took neutral damage from the first hit, and then after that you take 70% from it. So like you can just, it doesn't care about electric type attacks. And then
Yeah,
also
it
you can
is.
just lead it into winds too. You take one hit of like a wind burst, and who cares? It's not a big deal.
Yeah, that is fair enough. Now that was some good information on Kalabyss. We had a good talk over there. Next up, we have Tortenite, which is a signature Tem of one of your former teammates, which is Trot. Would you say
Hmm.
this Tem is like a niche pocket pick to counter specific Tems, or can it be used in a broad manner?
You can definitely use it in a broad manner because worst comes to worst, it's a crystal spiker with, I think it's the highest special attack out of every crystal spiker now after Mix got nerfed. So Xenoreth does more damage with Channeler, but other than that, I'm pretty sure if you give it max special attack, it's the highest damage crystal spike in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of people go for the more bulky,
The Doom
um,
one, the Doom Tortenite.
yeah, the Doom Tort. That's a
Mm-hmm.
little more matchup dependent, but if it if it has a good like when you get a good matchup with a stall bulky Doom Tort, you kind of just win the game. If you can cage, trap them in when they can't do damage, boost yourself up really big, heal 20% while dooming every 3 turns. Maybe you have like a Kinu healing you for support or something. It just, there's no way to deal with it unless you have, unless you can, punish
Kill it,
it before
yeah, or
that point.
punish it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, would you prefer having a Doom Tortenite in your team or a more offensive one? And would you prefer confined or efficient? I think they go hand in hand, both of the questions.
Um, See, I don't know. I feel like a normal person would be able to give you like a one or the other answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like a preference for spikes, efficient Tortenite, or Doom Confined, I would
Mm-hmm.
probably run Confined
Mm-hmm.
because priority buffs is really good. Priority defense buffs is insane. And then, but I'd probably run Confined that has like near max special attack, so
I
that
see
it
what you
can do
mean.
both. So that if you want it to just be a spiker, it can just be a spiker. And then when you get your good matchup, you just click Cage, start bulking up, and you can doom them anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on to the next time, we have Nidrasil in the list.
Yep.
On an average, how much value do you think you get out of Nidrasil per game?
Uh, Definitely a lot. Nidrasil was the Tem that made me want to start playing toxic teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first made my very first team, when I didn't really know what I was doing, I had Nidrasil
Mm-hmm.
on it, and I was like, I really like this Tem in the playstyle. So Nidrasil is just really good. It's my favorite Tem to play because of how how differently you can play on any given turn. You can go aggressive with a Toxic Ink. You can go allergic spread covering swaps. You can spores your ally, win con, and heal it back up. You can threaten a bark shield at any time. You can spores an enemy to play slow for stamina. There's just so much you can do. So many different styles you can pivot into with Nidrasil.
Do you think
It's
this
one of the
term?
best. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
best board state control Tems in the game.
Yeah, I was exactly just gonna say that. Like, do you think that Nidrasil is borderline like S tier because of the fact that it can apply poison ticks across the board? Like, one allergic spread is literally giving you 75% true damage across the board, and anything it does after that is basically more value on top of it, basically. And even it has turn one toxic tick, which is another two poison ticks. So, do you think it is S tier when it comes to like having board control or applying pressure on the opponent?
No, I don't think it's S tier. It's like A tier. It's really good, but it's not S. It's definitely worse than Noxolotl and Mushook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean allergic spread with the with its ability is like an S tier move, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of, I mean, there's still like lots of counterplay to that, and 75% true damage is over 3 turns, and it might not be a full 75 if something's low or
That
if
is
it
true.
resists toxic. So it's not like a straight up 75% true damage. And then it doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
like the bulk and the bulk that Mushook and Noxolotl have, so I think it puts it a little lower tier. And the fire type weakness as well, but it's definitely very good. I just don't think it's like as oppressive as Mushook is into physicals or Noxolotl is into specials.
I see what you mean. Now, why do you run mom's lunch on it? Because I've been seeing it a lot. Is it just purely because you can basically spores and remove the doom, or is there any other reason you run mom's lunch on Nidrasil?
Uh, so it yeah, it's another one of those like Nidrasil is it does everything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first you run it just for control, board control.
Mm-hmm.
You can swap it in at any time. If you make someone overexert with the exhaustion,
Mm-hmm.
then you're buying a lot of space in the board for Nidrasil to do whatever it wants. You can, once they're overexerted, are they going to stay in and rest or swap? Either way, you can throw out an allergic spread and
Mm-hmm.
try and spread some poison ticks. Force them to swap into a toxic or something that resists it. You can threaten a bark shield setup while they're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can, it just makes a lot of space for Nidrasil to do what it wants to do. The reason why it's like, I wouldn't say it's S tier is because you can, uh, if you run it down, it doesn't really get the time and space it needs to really pop off. So launch helps give it that space. And then yeah, it also has the added benefit of you can use lunch to cleanse statuses on your ally. So like against Doom teams, Um, I can just pick Noxolotl. It gets doomed. Who cares? I'll just click Stare and swap in Nidrasil, and my doom is gone on tempo.
Yeah, that is so good. I can see what you mean right there. What do you think about the fast hypnosis set Nidrasils that are popping up here and there? Because I saw Lola lately using one, and I'm starting to see more people running full speed Nidrasils as well for hypnosis and stuff.
I don't think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it's as good. It's not awful. It's fine. I think it's just way more matchup dependent and just like not as good overall. You're still not fast enough to. Your hypnosis goes faster than slow teams, which is cool. It's good into slow teams, and you still have base defense that's pretty good, so you're good into physical attacks. But like, I don't know. In the meta where there's so many fast 3 prio special attackers, you're never outspeeding them to hypnosis. You're gonna take so much damage. And then like if you want a 190 speed hypno, you can just run like Kinu or something. Like you don't even need a 190 speed hypno. There's not really a good break point above like Mushook is basically Mushook is the fastest thing that you will ever hypno,
True.
basically. So there's no point in like the 40 speed there really. You're not really outspeeding anything different. Everything that's 3 prio is 3 prio to probably go around 200 speed anyway, so you can outsped by 3 prio even at max speed of like, base speed 2 wire, base speed 2 vine. Like I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me, but Alola uses it and he wins a lot, so I don't know.
That's fair enough. I think the reason why he wins around is basically just catching people off guard. People underestimate his Nidrasil in a situation where they are gonna just do a 2 prio on it because they think they're just gonna be faster, and then suddenly that Nidrasil just attacks and it goes first and they just get off. Like I think Alola is planning to change as well because he now knows that people know it, and that's not a surprise. Element of surprise is not there anymore.
Yeah, I don't think Element of Surprise is a good strategy to try and use. And it's not awful. It's like in a Nidrasil 1-on-1, my Nidrasil versus Alola is gonna win because he doesn't have as much wasted TVs into special defense. He'll go first. So like there are matchups where that Nidrasil is better, but overall it's just like
consistency wise, yeah.
You lose so much consistency.
Alright, so let's move on to the next Tem, and we have a Cycrox in the list. So Cycrox is a Tem that I have been noticing you've been constantly saying that you've been labeling it as a bad Tem. Can you tell me why? Like, why do you think Cycrox is a bad Tem? In a meta that is really slow, it should be a good meta for Cycrox to shine, right? Because it is slow and he can apply Doom here and there.
Yeah, so it's a lot like Tortenite, where when it has a good matchup, it can be really good. Like I'll ban Cycrox a lot because it's really good into other toxics. Because you can waste water and doom them. That being said, if you're not using neurotoxins on like a tanky target that you can kind of ignore, it's just awful. It's just god awful. It's like it has the same problem as Goolder, where it just like doesn't really have any moves. You have wastewater, which if you don't use it for neurotoxins, uses half your stamina to do no damage and only do 1 tick of poison because you have no attack. You have decent special attack, but you have Venom Spread, which you're never gonna click because it's so inconsistent. And you need, if you're gonna do the Venom Spread, you're gonna use Digital Chromion. So you don't use that move. It has Strangle, which is okay, but so does Kalabyss. It has Digi-Threat, which is a good move, but you need Mental Synergy, and it dooms, and your Wastewater already dooms. So it's a Doom Strangle on a stick. it has good stats, but it doesn't do anything else. And if they have high damage, you can doom them for 4 turns, and a Mouflink will base jump on you for 4 turns, and you will just lose the game.
It
So
is
like
too
if you're not
slow,
hitting
is what you're saying, right?
if you're not hitting a tanky target, it just doesn't do enough, and it's very one-dimensional.
I see what you mean. Have you ever tested Cycrox yourself, or not
I've played a
considered
little
that?
bit. Yeah, and I've thought about it because like E-Punch needs digital synergy, which is really annoying because there's no 3 prio electric moves in the game, really, except for E-Punch, and digital
Punch
synergy is
against.
really hard to get.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've thought about it, but like in my opinion, I don't know. I don't know if it's the better trait, but I would run the water trait, whatever it's called. I wouldn't
Water.
run
Yeah,
neurotoxins.
water synthesizer.
Yes, water synthesizer. I would run that because it makes you at least not useless into like a more aggro matchup. You can still waste water and get a toxic tick. Like waste water and a toxic tick and a double in is gonna kill an aggro tem way faster than dooming it for 2 turns.
Yeah, and it can heal as well if a water
Yeah,
attack is
I
coming in.
mean, you basically gotta disregard that part of the trait unless you're playing like a fire team, because no one's gonna throw a water attack at you really. But yeah, I just think the poison tick from wastewater onto anything that's not like a toxic type is probably better than dooming it for 4 turns. Um, and especially when you can just if you're gonna be running Cycrox, you're probably running Kinu and Mental and Naga and maybe another Mental, so you can doom anyway with Digithreat. So it's like I don't know. It's neurotoxins is good into toxic types, and I think it's just worse into everything else.
That is quite fair enough. Now, jumping on to the next time, we have probably the best M out there that is for toxic, and that is Mushook. I'd like to
Yeah.
imagine that everyone knows already that how insane Mushook is already. But would
hmm
you like to explain why is it so good for the new people that are listening to us?
Barrier. Barrier is just really, really good. It has solid stats. It's really fast. It's very tanky. And then Barrier makes it into a physical team. Mushook is S tier. Barrier just makes it so difficult to kill. On top of that, you've wastewater, which is good damage. Add toxic ticks. Um, perfect jab lowering defense makes it really good aggro option. Um, you've uppercut for coverage, and then you can run cage with
Tenderness.
utility. Tenderness, tenderness is really stupid into physical matchups too.
Shut them down.
Back in the day, you could run turbo choreography with Mushook, and that made it like OP. You'd just be so fast to perfect jab and tenderness and do all your stuff.
Also, barrier
So
allows you to go put more points in special defensive required, right? Because
yeah,
since you have. Mhm.
you don't need any investment in physical defense, and it's not even worth attacking a Mushook with a physical attack without investing in physical defense at all.
That is true. Do you think wastewater, like giving wastewater to Mushook, was an overkill of a buff, or you think it's still fair enough for Mushook? Like,
Yeah, it was. It didn't need a buff. It was kind of in an interesting spot before where you only have your Rishial as a toxic move, which needs synergy. So you're kind of either running it in a heavy toxic team, or you're running it as more of a
support.
control with perfect jab, uppercut, turbo, cage, tenderness, 4 of those 5. And it's more of a utility tem. But yeah, with wastewater, I mean, I don't think it needed a buff. It is awkward that it only has Urashell instead of wastewater, but I really don't think it needed to be buffed with wastewater.
That is true. I mean, I can agree on that. It has viral and gust, but again, that's a special attack, so I won't count that. So
Yeah.
that is fine. But yeah, that's good to hear your opinion on it as well, and that you agree that it is probably way too good right now for the value that it provides.
Yeah, it's the best toxic in the game.
That's fair enough. Do you agree that Mushook can genuinely be put in any team and still do a good job at what it does?
Yes. You can put it on literally any team and it'll be good. If you're running a special attacking team, you just cut Perfect Jab for Cage and you're all set.
It's fair enough. Now let's jump on to Volarend. Volarend is a term that splits the player base, and you've been found in the camp of Volarend being bad. What is wrong with this term, according to you?
Stamina.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of its stats really. Volarend used to be really good. It was really good up until Cipanku.
Mm-hmm.
And people were asking if Volarend was going to still be good in Cipanku when they added electrics, and I was saying yes, Volarend will still be really good.
Because
And
of
then they
anaerobic.
went because of its traits and its moves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It has a
Mm-hmm.
lot of really good stuff going for it,
Yeah,
but it's not good right now because of speed changes. So you can't. It's not worth it to turbo choreography it anymore because you're not going to outspeed anything.
that's
So it
true.
lost the ability to have double speed for really fast toxic plumes, really fast noxious bombs, feather gatling, what is it? HKS, like HKS on
Hyperkinetic strike. Yeah.
yeah, hyperkinetic strike on anaerobic Volarend is just done now. Before you lower your special attack when you boost your special defense,
Mm-hmm.
but before you could make up for it by turboing your anaerobic Volarend, and then your hyperkinetic strike still did a lot of damage. But now it's just like your hyperkinetic strike doesn't really do anything. It uses 2/3 of your stamina bar. So Volarend kind of lost a prio move, or prio move is way less impactful. They changed stamina, so it has like 37 base stamina, 39 base stamina. You need to invest really heavily into stamina now, and its other stats are just really low as
Mm.
well.
What do you?
So if you want to, when you play anaerobic, which is the good trait, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
always been a better trait. You want it to be tanky, so you need to invest heavily in HP, and it has a defense weakness, so you might want to invest in defense a little bit. But then it also, you don't want it to be ignored, so you need to max out your attack, which is like really base. Your base attack is really low. So if Valorant had like another 500 TVs, it'd be really good, but its stats are just too low.
Don't
Um,
worry. I'll go ahead and put a mail to 𝗏𝗏 for giving Volarend another 500 points. We'll make it balanced.
yeah.
But
So like anything that isn't weak to Valorant and does physical damage, it's just a joke. Like I put a Yowlar on my team and have never banned Valorant since then. Even Mushook these days it can beat Valorant. You just tenderness it and like
hmm,
it doesn't really do any damage to you anymore.
what do you think
Um,
about Volarend in a PJAB focused team? Like 𝗬𝗏𝗃 has been doing very well with Volarend in his setup in a PJAB team.
so Valorant with +1 attack is very good,
Mm-hmm.
and 𝗬𝗏𝗃 runs he runs P jabs and the Hedgen, hook and going away gift. If
Yep.
you can get Volarend to set up and then give it +1 attack into like a special attacking team, it's very good, like very very good. But it's just like one of those matchup inconsistency things. Like into anything physical, it just doesn't have the stats to pull its own weight. It'll get out traded and lose against any physical attacker. It'll be good into special attackers, but even special attackers in this meta can like do really well into it. Like I think Tolkien beats it with burn ticks.
Mm-hmm.
Barnchi can outspeed it and hit it really hard before it can start stacking buffs. Um, there's just a lot of it just doesn't do what it used to do anymore.
I see what you mean. Now, the last time we have today is most likely Adoroboros, and it is a very interesting Tem despite its obvious weaknesses. What do you think the utility that Adoro can provide for a team?
Adoro's good. If I had to swap in another toxic other than the form running, it would probably be Adoro. Having mental coverage is really nice because neutrals are up there as one of the best types. And it also has a lot. It has a lot of utility as well. So you can run Toxic Ink if you want toxic tick damage. You have energy manipulation for prio and exhaustion. You can throw handcuffs on it if you want. For a lot of people who are doing Adoroboros 2-wire, you can handcuffs off the neutralized on your opponent Tem to hit it super effectively. After that, I think Prody started that. Synergy Master is a really, really good trait as well. So Synergy Master, Faraday Cage is really strong. If you're stacking heavy mentals, Synergy Master 𝗧𝗵𝗆 is ridiculous, but that's another really, high payoff for low consistency move. You also have more utility with Sacrifice and Relax, Hypno. I feel like people forget that it can really be like a sleep control too. And then the special defense is crazy. So you can build it as like a special attacker that's really specially defensive, but really physically weak, or you can build it full defense that's just go like 400 into defense, and now it's really physically tanky too. So there's a lot you can do with it. It's just the typing is a little bit awkward, being more weak to crystals and electrics and digitals, but I think it's definitely a solid Tem.
Now, with the addition of Mehmet, a Tem you have used pretty often, have you ever considered using, Psychic Collaborator?
For fun, yeah. I think I back in like maybe 𝗧𝗵𝗆 even, I put Adoro on my team, and I had like one other mental, and I put 𝗧𝗵𝗆 on it, and I never got to click the move like a single time because it's just it's like there's just so many downsides to it. Where I don't know, it's really fun, it's really cool. Double Synergy Master, 𝗧𝗵𝗆, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but inconsistent.
Now, what would be the preferred item for Adoro according to you? Handcuffs, double screen coat, anything else?
Handcuffs. It would be really good. I mean, alright, handcuffs, double screen are good on anything that you put it on. Well, handcuffs on anything that can apply exhaust is going to be good. Double screen on anything is really good. Adoro also makes really good use of Rock Shield, kind of patching up that crystal weakness. So you can leave it in front of 𝗬𝗚𝗚, Valash, Tuvine.
And what's your thoughts on Strange West?
I don't think Strange West Adoro is good. I think it just takes your one-sided matchup and just swaps it so that it's still really inconsistent, but just in a different way. Like the item doesn't give you anything. It doesn't give you any stats. It doesn't give you anything extra. It's kind of like playing a slightly different Tem that doesn't have an item.
That's fair
you're
enough.
playing a reverse Adoro that doesn't have an item. But if you're gonna play Strange West Adoro, it'd be really physically tanky. Just play Mushook.
I see what you mean. Now, this next question is a bit tricky because I have seen this team myself and played myself as well. So, what is your opinion on the sleep teams that Adoro is finding itself right now in the current meta? few players that I saw playing them is Welsh, who made it to I think 1700 recently with purely a focus Adoro sleep team with a Mehmet using Gamma Burst to blow out most of the enemies. And if it's a Volarend, then you know that Adoro is basically a max speed one glass cannon. It basically hypnosis the Volarend and then just use the psychic collaborator to kill them. So they either do double psychic collab or go for double gamma burst kind of a team, and it's a full speed based team with Madrid being in the backseat as well for crystal deluging if required to make more sleeps. So what do you think about Adoro and this kind of a team with full speed glass cannon?
I think Adoro in that type of team is probably pretty good. Adoro with Madrid is a really good combination. The Pocus Mimit type teams they can be really good, they can be really bad. It's another really inconsistent matchup style team where if you're fast enough, you're gonna just put them to sleep and win the game.
That team, like turn 1 is basically you start with Adoro with the whip, which basically gives the +1 to focus, so that slowdown can be used turn 1 itself, and then they just start from there, and turn 2 onwards the hypnosis keeps going, and then it's a psychic collaborator nuke team kind of thing.
Yeah,
double synergy master nukes.
So when it works, it's really good, but it's very
inconsistent.
It's not easy.
You would say
it's matchup based. Like if they have a way to not fall asleep or to outspeed you, you're just gonna lose the game. But if they don't, then you're probably gonna win because slowdown is really stupid and crystal deluge is really broken. So
I feel
it's kind of like a team built off of abusing those two moves.
That is fair enough. Now, basically, like we covered every single toxic Tem that is there that is bringing value to the table. Now, let's go out of the toxic Tems and the toxic type itself, and what Tems outside of the toxic type, according to you, complement the toxic type of team if you're making. Let's just say you put 4 toxics together from this list as per your wish. What would be the 3 Tems that you are looking into? Like what type of Tems would you fill in that team? Is there a goal that you try to achieve, or is there a specific typing that you try to put in that will complement your toxic types?
There's not really a specific typing. I mean, I've always dreamed of a really good electric Tem, and I thought that Cipanku would bring one, and we still don't really have one. 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗁's nuts, but 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is also too good to the point where everyone's running double Earth. So if you're not banning Earths, which I'm not, then I can't really run 𝗧𝗵𝗺. So that kind of sucks, and every other electric just isn't really good. So, like, obviously you're running toxics, look for electrics to help pair with them. But I think it's more important to pair it with Tems that can synergize really well with the team you're bringing. And also you need a diversity to try and cover as many matchups as possible. Everything needs to be, working together. And, you need to have multiple different strategies and ways to deal with everything that the meta is going to throw at you.
That is true. What do you think about, what are your thoughts on the current meta? Because I have asked this in every podcast that I have done, and I wanted to know your thoughts as well. Do you think the game has changed for better? It is the best meta we had because everyone is trying everything. Every other match can be a different one kind of thing. Or do you think it is slowly getting stable and people are playing same stuff kind of thing?
I think this is probably the best meta we've had, the most balanced meta we've had
in a long while,
probably ever.
I see.
I mean, like, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 was the most unbalanced meta we've ever had. 𝗬𝗃𝗃, the beginning of it was, 𝗬𝗵𝗵 and 𝗃𝗏𝗃 were unkillable. Yeah, and then we had 𝗃𝗃𝗃 neutrals at the same time, and then kind of Keanu Stall and 𝗃𝗃𝗃 Goolder were all just, very overpowering. Now there's not as many overpowering.
There's always something that's
overpowered. there's still overpowered Tems, but it's like not like they
Break.
make other Tems unviable as much. But
True.
there is more
Variety.
like yeah, there's more variety, which is really good, and a lot more is viable. But at the same time, there's more matchup dependent binary things
Mm-hmm.
in the game than before that make it worse. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that like the meta is still probably the best meta because of the variety and a lot more is viable. Um, but then you also have stuff like double Pocus Mimit can just win you a game. Pocus or Mimit 𝗨𝗨𝗨 can just win you a game. Kinu Yalar can just win you a game. You know, a lot of different
Combos. Yeah,
combinations
there.
where
Yeah.
that
Some
are too
staple combos
powerful.
which
Where
are
if you
really good. Yeah.
yeah, if you don't have a counter to it, you're just gonna lose. So it's like you can kind of go matchup fishing in this meta. It feels like.
I feel you.
Um,
One more
Other than
important
that, it's pretty
question
good.
is, one more important question I have. What do you think about introduction of Mimit in general? For breeding, it was a godsend. Most breeders have already spoken, but from a PvP perspective, do you think Mimit has brought in some insane combos to the table and it's not really best for the health of PvP, or do you think Mimit was a good addition and it innovates more strategies and more jank stuff in general?
Mimit is really fun, but Mimit should not be allowed in PvP.
It's a
It is,
double-edged sword, you say?
yeah, I think it's game breaking for PvP, honestly. There will never be like I don't think you can ever balance it, really. Like there's so many things they've had to change because of Mimit or are going to have to change. And just the whole concept of it is kind of like game breaking. Like you can't have two Tems on one team. Like you can't
Mm-hmm.
just put two Valash on one team or two Yalar on one team. So
Mm-hmm.
why can you put a Mimit on on a team? Because it's the
Copy.
same thing. Yeah, you can just have two Tems, any two Tems you want.
Okay, what would
So it's
be
kind of like even like if you talk about balance and stuff, it's not really about balance. It's kind of like just it goes against the whole idea of how team building is done. You even
hmm,
if it like you can talk about nerfing it and stuff, it's more of a conceptual thing.
yeah, you just don't want like your basic rules of the game say that you can have only one type of a tem in your competitive squad, and Mimit literally just breaks that rule, but in a technicality, with a trait,
Yeah,
not himself.
yeah. And
Now,
then you have to worry about duplicates of every
yeah,
temp now. Like double Koish
yeah,
probably needs to get changed still, nerfed somehow. But you don't want to nerf Koish because besides Synergy Master with Mimit, the Tim sucks. So like
mm-hmm,
now Koish can't ever be balanced because Mimit exists. And you have Benefactor Kinu, which if you have Benefactor Kinu and Mimit and no way to kill a Lifeful Sap Kinu, you instantly win the game. So like now Benefactor Kinu can't really be healthily balanced. And you have Mimit 𝗨𝗨𝗨, and there's a lot of matchup fishing you can do, and it just kind of goes against what, not having duplicate Tems and stacking up on combos.
that is fair enough. Now, what do you think the meta would look like if, let's just imagine that Mimit was not allowed to be played in competitive by the game itself, not by us as a community, just by the game itself. It says that Mimit can just be used for breeding, it's a breeding time. Do you think meta would be in a healthier shape right now with a lot of cheese combos going out like double 𝗭𝗍, double synergy
Y-
master, Adoroboros, double
Yeah,
Pokesis?
it would be the best meta we've ever had by far without Mimit. Mimit just it is really fun. It is really cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it, but it doesn't promote a good balanced meta where
It basically
yeah,
makes it not
it,
perfectly
it makes a lot of
balanced.
cheese strats viable. It makes a lot of matchups like very binary matchup dependent teams that can be viable. It's just not great for the state of competitive.
Do you think Mimit would be better if it does not copy base stats and just has its own TVs? as it is. Like,
Uh, yeah, I mean that'd be better because its base stats are kind of trash. So
so it
it'd be
just
much
gets the
better.
trait and the moves, but not the stats itself. Do
It'd
you
be
think
much
that would
better,
be?
but
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's still like you need to make sure that it fixes every possible interaction that Mimic can have. So like if it keeps Mimic stats, then double Quish is way worse, which is good. Maybe double Quish is like balanced or not good enough, and whatever. That's a good change. But does it change 𝗬𝗏𝗊 at all? Like not really,
Not
because you
really.
can still one shot the other 𝗬𝗏𝗊 with your Mimic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to. It doesn't fix. It's a game breaking concept that nerfing it doesn't fix
Yeah, it's
until you nerf it to
basically.
like unless you nerf it to literally unplayable. Like this thing has 1 HP and 1 speed and whatever. It wouldn't work.
I mean, the easiest answer for them would be just to say, like, according to our rules of competitive, you don't allow two, so just, don't let it be in competitive. Just make it a breeding time.
Yeah,
And
you
I
can just
think
make
most,
it so you
yeah,
can't put it onto a PvP squad.
that
But
would be the easiest solution, I think. Hmm. Now, what would be your advice to the players that are just beginning the game and they are really interested in toxic archetype? You being the best toxic player around, I mean by the typing, because you are a really good person, otherwise you're not toxic. But what would be your advice to those new people?
I'm toxic. I'm pretty toxic sometimes, but only
Are
to
you
people who
salty?
deserve it. Salty? Not really salty. I'm more just like to talk some trash sometimes.
I
But
say trash TV. Hmm.
um, what would I recommend for toxics? Just Mushook, Noxolotl. If you really want to go heavy, Nidrasil.
Kino.
Um, Kinu makes it very easy. Yes, add Kinu. If you're gonna be playing Kinu, might as well add a Yalar. Um, 𝗧𝗵𝗶 can be really good. So the thing is, like, I wouldn't recommend more than 3 toxics to a
Mm-hmm.
new player.
I see.
3 is kind of pushing it. I would say, like, you can auto include Noxolotl, Mushook on whatever team you want.
I see. I will
You
not lie.
go,
I actually laughed when you just said, like, you can add a Kino, makes it easy, and while you're doing that, just take the Yavla DLC
yeah,
as
it makes the
well.
game easy. The game easy. Um, so like, if you're gonna go for heavy toxic, like you want to go 3 or more, I'd go Mushook, Noxolotl, Nidrasil. Then you can either go. I like to play aggressive, so I don't run Kinu. I run Yalar, but I run an aggressive Yalar, um, without intending to bulk it up to +5, +5, +5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can go for like more aggressive strat, or you can just go Kinu. Yalar, 𝗧𝗵𝗆 is like a very, very good core. Oh, put Tolkien in there too. Maybe a 2 wire for good measure. 2 wire is really good with toxics. Yeah, something like that, and you're looking good.
When are you planning to stream again? This is a question that I personally had and
Oh
I was
yes,
wondering to ask. When are you planning to stream again? Start doing some PvP streams.
yeah. See, I said I was gonna stream in the fall, and now it's the fall, and I haven't really been streaming. But like I just haven't really felt like playing Temtem lately. You know, I love playing tournaments. I love the competitiveness, but I don't know. I haven't really felt like playing. I don't want to get burnt out before Arbory. Maybe I'll start streaming when Arbory comes out. But like I haven't played any Temtem outside of a tournament in like a month or two. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also difficult now at school because I have school and social stuff, so don't
I
really have that
see.
much time to set like a pretty big block of time aside consistently. But I don't know. It's something I want to do at some point. So yeah, maybe when I graduate, I'll have more time for it. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
That is fair enough. But thank you so much again, Matt, for being with me today. I asked for 40 minutes from you, and I'm pretty sure we went way longer than that. But I had a lot of fun, and which is why the conversation kept on going and going. I had a lot of fun with you today
Yeah,
to talk with you.
thanks for having me. It's
No
my
problems,
pleasure.
dude. And thank you so much, guys, for taking a nice hearsay at our podcast today. And if you like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification button so that you get notified of new uploads. I link the whole playlist down in the description, and link to my Twitch and Mattgia's Twitch will be in the description as well. Our special script writer Silentkamiii also gets a shout out. Do not miss him out. He is silent, but he is definitely deadly. So I'll put his Twitch as well in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to join our Discord server or ping me up. I'll be more than happy to help you out. I will catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe and take care.